Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Ask Me Anything session for the Decentraland community. Fractalian's here from Facilitation Squad, and while everyone joins, I'm just going to go over some of the links and some info for you guys. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in chat for everybody. Please leave your questions in there. If you guys have not watched any of the past ones, we have everything uploaded on our DAO YouTube channel, and I will paste the link for that as well. So usually they're up within a couple days. And yeah, you can watch all the past ones and get caught up. And I just pasted that as well for you guys right there. So next week's AMA will be with the Decentraland Foundation SDK and editor team. So that will happen on June 15th at the same time as this one. And if you have any other information or want to look on what's coming up in the next AMAs, always take a look at our Notion doc that's updated with all the info for you guys. And for those of you who are new here, the goals for these AMAs is to help build more effective communication and connections between the foundation side, grantees, and the larger Decentraland community. And if you ever have any extra questions or challenges, feel free to always contact Grant Support Squad. Also feel free to contact me and the Facilitation Squad on Decentraland DAO Discord as well. Well, today we welcome Alvaro Luque, who is the Explorer Product Manager from the Decentraland Foundation. Thanks so much, Alvaro, for being here. And with that, I will pass it on to you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Ciao.
Hello, everybody. Give me a second that I'm gonna share my screen. So I am here in representation of the Explorer team together with Aga, Ashley, and Luis. We're gonna be talking about a few topics for the core and the social workstream. Let me see if I can share. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, so as Natalie mentioned, we're gonna be answering your question in Slido. You have the link in the Meet, or you can scan with the QR code on your mobile phone. I'm gonna leave it for 10 seconds here. So also, you can check the questions of other people and vote for your favorite ones. So you're gonna be sorted by priority then, and we will be answering from top to bottom, okay? So as I mentioned before, we are in representation of the Explorer team. That is a much larger group between product managers and engineering managers here. And we have a few topics for the core stream inside the team that are gonna be led by, I think, Ashley? Yes. Okay, so again, I give the mic to you, man.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, everybody, I'm Ashley. I'm the engineering manager on the core stream, and one of the most common questions we have is over performance. So I thought I'd do a few slides today discussing what the things we're doing about it, why we do have performance issues in certain areas of Decentraland, and sort of the very near-term roadmap that we're working on right now to improve the performance. So next slide, please. Next slide. It's not changing.
It is changing.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, it's changing.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. Oh, we changed, right? Great. So some of the reasons why we currently have performance issues, there's sort of a number of reasons, and these are sort of due to decisions that were made in the past. You know, as you're ramping up with a company, you're trying to do things maybe quite quickly. So some decisions were made. We're now trying to rectify some of those decisions. So one of the things is the main threaded data loading. So as you transition through the world, you'll notice that as things load in, the things stutter. And the reason is we load them on what's called the main thread. So we're now working on moving a lot of that to what we call a background thread, which will mean that we can load things as you transition and only display them when they're ready. The second thing we're working on optimized assets. This is mainly a problem with user-generated content. We can't always rely on the content to be optimal. Users don't necessarily know how to make optimal content, so we're looking at implementing processes which improve and generate the UGC. And memory allocations is another thing. So in terms of like the detail of memory allocation, if you do too much of it, it makes things slow. So we have to do lots of things to avoid allocating memory, especially at runtime. So we're working on things there. And right now we don't have any LOD systems. LOD systems basically mean that they load lower quality assets depending on the distance you are from the camera. Right now we don't provide the user with this functionality, but we are implementing it. So the goal initially is to auto-generate some of the LODs for the assets that are further away, so we can load them in quicker. And as you go closer to the assets, the more high fidelity assets are loaded in. And right now, as some of you may know, we have SDK6 and this SDK7. SDK7 is much faster than SDK6, but we are working on improving the throughput of SDK6. Next slide. So I touched on a few of these points in the last slide, but in general, we want to make the UGC process as smooth as possible. We don't want the content developers to have difficulties creating performant content. So one of the things we're investing in now, investing time in, is automatic LOD generation. So that will take away some of the time it takes to create optimal assets. That includes things like imposters, which means that at a very far distance, when you see a specific scene, part of the scene will be rendered as a single mesh, rather than the complex mesh that it is. And as you go closer, the real high fidelity assets will get loaded. This will allow us to hopefully also extend the distance in terms of right now you only see 4 parcels, I believe. So we're hoping to be able to extend that distance and view more content. So that should create a more immersive environment. If anybody knows the Unity platform, one of the things that they have is something called asset bundling. That is one of the reasons now is we load what's called GLTFs. They block the main thread, which is what I spoke about before. We're now trying to move towards asset bundling, which handles all these problems for us. And that's the same problem as texture loading. And then finally, something that we are doing is more smoother scene prioritization. What this means is that we can prioritize scenes that you can see. So we'll process the scenes that you see in front of you and ignore the things that you don't see. That will give us more processing power for the scenes that are visible. So that will reduce the amount of processing time overall. Okay, next slide. Okay, so how can the community help right now? So there is some documentation available for developers of scenes which talk about performance optimizations. It touches on some of the things I've spoken about today. Some of those things include sharing textures, reducing the memory usage of textures, using smaller textures where necessary. The second thing, which isn't touched on as much, which I think we're going to expand on in the documentation, is about being modular. I've got a slide coming up about this, but basically it's being able to reuse the assets within the scene rather than having larger meshes with duplicate assets in. And the last thing is upgrading to SDK7. So this is just an encouragement. You are going to get automatic performance gains by upgrading to SDK7 because it's been built with better fundamentals. Next slide. So this is just a continuation of some examples of how to be modular. For example, in the Genesis Plaza, there we have some duplicate meshes that can be instanced with the scene code rather than in the mesh itself. So we will save less on the download time, we'll save less on the render, we'll save by rendering less, and we can instance the meshes as well. These rules are hopefully covered on the link I gave before as well. Next slide, please. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. I apologize if it was technical, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I wasn't clear on some of the things. And yeah, optimization is something we're actively working on a daily basis. We have a lot of ideas on how to improve it. we just need the time. So we're constantly finding areas of improvement. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ashley. Very useful tips. So now we're gonna go for the social work stream. So first, I'm gonna say that we have released the new backpack. So that you already have that in production. You can go and check it right now. So this includes a few features like searching your wearables or filtering or sorting by different ways. You can also see the slots of what you have equipped in each one of them. We are also trying to extend the kind of visibility that we have about the information on each NFTs, and we want to actually go even further with that. So we have created a new detailed info card that right now it shows the description on which other wearables the things are hiding. But we want to include here information about the marketplace or their creator, so content creators can go further on this and try to extend the lore or the metadata they want to introduce into their wearables. Also, you have a new renderer for the avatar, so you can now zoom in pan on the avatar view, so you can go and see in more detail. And one last thing that we introduced during development, it wasn't really expected, but we thought it was a great addition. It was to being able to show hidden wearables. So right now, the wearables, the content creator liberty to decide which wearables are going to be replaced or hidden by other wearables it was way too much. And we thought that was actually devaluating the rest of the wearables, because maybe you go to the marketplace and buy some awesome sunglasses, and then you go to the backpack, try to equip them, but you realize that your mask or your eyewear is actually removing that capability to wear those. So we have decided to remove the ability to replace any other wearables. So every previous configuration is now moved to the hidden. So if previously a t-shirt will be replacing the pants, it's just basically hiding it. And also to really unlock the possibilities of the wearables, we have decided to allow the players to unhide any hidden wearables. So now you can create further, much more combinations than before, and it gives the creativity to you instead of just removing that. So I want to say that thank you for the feedback that we have received on the backpack. I have seen a lot of people posting on social media about how awesome the backpack was. There was a boost of morale for the team in general, because we have been working on this for 2 months in development, but we have been cooking this for several months already, trying to find the best way to look at this and to be able to make this retro compatible with all the assets that we have in the marketplace. So thank you a lot for that. It was a really nice to see that you are liking this. Now, on the next projects that we're working right now, we have 4 weeks until the end of the quarter. So we are working in a couple of projects. The first is the account settings. So now we're trying to integrate everything that you had in the small mini card whenever you click on your face inside the start menu. That there you can create your introduction and maybe manage your wallet. So now we're going to be splitting those things in 2 different sections, one for the wallet and one for the account. The design here is not final, is not yet updated. It's going to change a little bit. But in this project, what we are aiming to do is to allow you to modify your information easily. Also to be able to swap your name, so you can decide to wear any of the names that you have bought, or maybe go back to an unclaimed name that wasn't a possibility before. If you had one claimed name, you couldn't go back to an unclaimed name. Also make it easy for you to buy a name if you don't even know what that is. So people that doesn't have a name, they understand a little bit better what having a name means inside the platform. And also we are adding some other things like additional information for the biography, like your country, your location, your working status. This is the kind of stuff that is optional, but you will be able to add to your profile if you like. And in the future, we would like to see that information to be accessible by the SDK under prior permission from the players. So SDK can create other mechanics like, I don't know, trying to find an employment for people that is unemployed. So find jobs for them. Also, we are adding here email notifications. So you can also modify your email address. This is something that you only can do whenever you start and you create an account. It was the only point where you can introduce your email. Now we changed that so you can remove your email or add it or change it and stuff like that. We had one section here that it was related to privacy settings, but in the scope that we have for 4 weeks, we are not going to be able to add it probably, so I have not included it here. The second project, and I have been talking this about social media, is about outfits. So the new backpack was like a foundation or a base for the next features that we want to introduce, and this is the first one. So with the outfits, you will be able to store the current equipment on your avatar so you can wear it later. Everybody gonna have up to 5 empty slots to store their outfits, but you will also have 1 extra slot per name. So it means that in the future you will be able to swap your name and your outfits all at once. And also increase a little bit the value proposition of the names that most of you have already. So you can expect it to both of these projects to be delivered by the end of June at beginning of July. Hope that works okay. And yeah, we have few new things in the oven. I'm not allowed to talk about them because we don't have them yet on the betting table. But I have created a few emojis here, so you can imagine what that is. Also, I wanted to say that I have created a Twitter account exclusively for the Decentraland content. You can now follow me on Olabra DCL. I'm going to be talking about the development things and all the projects that we have been working. So it's not about only one single point in the technical AMA. We can have further conversations about features that you want to request, or how is your experience with things that we are releasing, or bugs or stuff like that. So if you want to contact me, I am on Twitter and I will reply. And that's it. Again, this is the QR code for the questions. I'm going to open the Slido in a minute. In the meantime, you have that open there. Let me check the link. So I'm going to move this here and the full screen. So, okay, we can start answering questions here. First, when will VR compatibility be officially added into DCL? It seems that DAO grantees for VR has issues with copying with the constant changes on the Explorer. Okay, so there was a VR client done by a DAO grant. It is true. As far as I know, that client is not working. It is right now. It has some bugs that need to be fixed, but we internally in the foundation, we are not dealing with that project. So I don't really know about the status of that. I don't know if anyone else have. What we know is that we are somehow doing some R&D on VR. We are looking and prospecting about different ways of approaching this internally, but I cannot really release any official information about that because I don't know the details, basically. Aga, Ashley, do you have any further details about that?
Yeah, regarding the grantees project, I only know that they have made some progress. I think they overcome the biggest change. There are still some issues that they are now trying to resolve, but I believe that they should have some working client. But of course, it lacks quite a lot of functionality still. So I guess that depends on if they are going to apply for a next grant to continue development or not. That one, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What I can say is that it is a big topic inside the conversations that we're having in the product engineering table, okay? And it's actually part of the mission and vision of the organization. So VR is definitely in the future, but we are not internally inside the foundation actively working on a VR client right now. That's what I can say. Okay, the second question will be, when will outfits be rolling out? The developers are working on that right now. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to exactly know when it's going to be releasing. But as I said before, we have a 4 weeks release window. So I think crossing our fingers, it will be at the end of June or at the beginning of July. Another question would be, how can the community learn more about how to better optimize assets? Will be great if you create a video series about this.
Yeah, so I think the first place to start would be the link. I think it's been shared already. I'll share it again in the chat. As for a video series, it might be something that our internal content creators could do, because they spend a lot of time doing the optimization as well. So that could be something we could look at in the future.
Okay. I think a whole series about how to address performance issues will be great in general. I think that is also in the previous question, I guess. Okay, Cheddar, is there a plan to add equipped emotes to user profiles with buy buttons similar to the wearables? Is there a plan to add equip emotes to the user profiles? Do you mean, the previously called passport, right? So yeah, this is something that we can add. The reality is that in the backpack, in the new version of the backpack, there is also a new version of the emotes that is a little bit more similar to what we had so far, to what we have right now. And we will definitely add more links to the marketplace so we can create better connections for people that is looking for similar assets. So yeah, definitely, I think it's a good approach. So the next one, are there any ideas that the team is exploring that is in the roadmap, probably further down the road, something that the community can look forward to? Yes, I mean, we have hundreds of different ideas. We are constantly doing one-pagers or pitching those ideas internally and try to fine-tune which ones are the best for the mission and vision of the organization. And I don't know really how to. There is a lot of stuff that is not in the roadmap because an idea is just an idea, right? We don't want to pollute the roadmap with a lot of stuff that it maybe not going to happen, or create false sensation that that's going to be developed at some point. Because at the end of the day, decisions that we make is based on what we're building and also reacting to what the community is looking for inside Decentraland. So yeah, I can tell you a lot of things that we have been discussing, right? New improvements in the SDK, like the ability to sit down on a chair, for example, people have been looking forward for that, or an in-world camera, or being able to do more with your avatar, like, I don't know, crouching or jumping or flying or stuff like that. Or maybe having items, so you can equip a sword and a shield. We also been exploring ideas for emotes. So an emote can actually instantiate geometry, so you can do also sound and particles inside an emote. We have been discussing stuff for the skybox and how content creators can modify the skybox through the SDK and have their own skybox. We have been, I've been talking about hundreds of things like that, but we just try to put on top of the table the ones that are more feasible, and also trying to fix sometimes the broken windows. So sometimes it's like you can look forward for a really nice functionality and you can picture in your head that it's going to be awesome. But at the end of the day, if people is complaining because the performance is not good, or you cannot chat because there is buggy, or stuff like that, or it's not available on your device, that's the important thing that we need to solve. So we are trying to do like a combination between new features and improving performance and fixing the broken windows and making the user experience in general better. So I hope that addressed the question, extended a little bit. If there is an additional comment from the group. Can someone be removing the question that has been answered? Natalie, I don't know if you have access, but I don't have permission here.
Yeah, I don't know if I have access either.
Okay.
I will try. Let me go through there.
Okay. So I think a whole series of this done. Is there a plan to add equipment and modes, user profiles? Okay. Are there any ideas, things for? Okay. Will there be any considerations for creation of guilds, parties, or something similar found in MMOs? Again, this is something that also we have been discussing at some points, to create a party. So you can go to your friends, add them to the party, and maybe you can create a group of people that are going to be sharing a common space. So maybe the progress on their quest is done together, or they have a better connections in the multiplayer if they're in a party. As far as I know, we're improving the way that we are doing multiplayer on our backends, so we can have a better multiplayer experience. But the idea of a party is not in development right now. We don't have that on top of the table right now. Aga, Ashley, Luis, I do not know everything. So if I am saying something that is wrong, okay. DCL Closet and Genesis City Map are great features that live separate from DCL Explorer. Is there a plan to collaborate and make these features a standard? In the case of the Genesis City, I think at some point we were discussing to try to reach the developers and see how we can integrate that into the map. I think the satellite vision of the map has been long promise that we never delivered. Yeah, I think that's the kind of community collaboration that we can do. In the case of DCL Closet, I think they're going a little bit into a different direction. So we are doing outfits as a simple way of storing your avatars and your outfits. Maybe they can reuse whatever data structures we include in the outfits for their purpose, but we haven't really talked to them about integrating that inside the Explorer. I use DCL Studio for content creation, but it no longer works with current DCL. Is there an ATA on adding these features for DCL Explorer? This is a question for the SDK team, right? I mean, we don't have any goal in the future to integrate the editor inside the Explorer. What we want to do is to have a proper editor so you can do everything there and try there whatever you are creating, and then you're gonna have like a one-to-one representation on the editor inside the Explorer, so you don't need to go back and forth between both applications. But there is no I mean, we already created a builder in World, and we had to remove that because it actually having both applications in the same place just make everything worse. I mean, if it's an Explorer and an editor at the same time, you need to have, you need to be doing some concessions, I think is the word, or you need to be dealing with special things that it doesn't make great neither one or the other. So it is actually better to have the editor in an environment for development together with IDEs like Visual Studio Code and stuff like that, and have the Explorer for the immersion and the exploration and the socialization without actually polluting the code on those ends. That is a personal opinion. I don't know if anybody else had a comment on that, but I think it's the decision that we made when we scrapped the building world.
Okay, thank you so much, Alvaro. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. The whole DCL Studio thing, right? Like in order for us to be able to have this feature where we are able to the free fly camera angles and sort of have a different angle, right? Like if you were flying a drone and things like that, that wouldn't be something that the Explorer team would deal with at all. It would be something that the SDK team would have to sort of build out and then integrate into the platform. Is that right?
Well, particularly on the example that you gave, it is not the case because we actually have the intention to integrate an in-world camera. So you can bring your camera, take photos, and it won't be God mode, like in Quake, for example. You won't be able to access anywhere because we are trying to be very careful with this, okay? I gave you in the presentation, right. I gave you a little bit of a hint, but it's actually here. So when I mentioned that we have some projects in the oven, this is one of them, okay? So for the camera, yes, we want the camera to be in world because we want people to be able to take picture while they're experiencing the events and the games and all of that. But we need to be very careful on what you can do with the camera that doesn't destroy the mechanics and the secrets of a scene. So if there is a live event happening indoors and you can only access the live event if you have a specific NFT or you are allowed because of your wallet or whatever, we don't want you to take the camera and move it inside the event and be able to see the events and stuff like that. So we need to be very careful on what is the capabilities of the camera and need to be a little bit constrained on a specific distance to the player, or it needs to be colliding with the different colliders of the scene. And also we are discussing stuff like allow developers to have specific areas like what we had for the forcing first-person view or third-person view. So maybe you can have specific areas where you cannot take pictures because it's a secret, or maybe a game that's have something inside walls, so you cannot really go with the camera, look inside, stuff like that. So, but definitely a camera is going to be a social feature where people can take photos, they can change stuff like the depth of field or the FOV, or modify the brightness and contrast and stuff like that, and create awesome pictures and maybe even videos. And for the time being, it's probably going to be something local. So whenever you take a picture or a video, it's going to be stored directly on your hard drive, and you will be able to access this through the camera reel. So you will have all the photos and all the videos that you took there. So yeah, definitely the camera is an Explorer thing. It's not about the SDK. I don't know if that answers your question, Cheddar.
Yes, no, that is wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate the time you've taken to answer my question. I was really more interested in sort of the kind of drone photography, right? Of course, I know there's limitations, with token gating and going into private areas that the landowner would not want anybody to just be able to even see or fly into. But as far as content creation goes, that is like, it's like a big deal.
Yeah,
So I just want to put
yeah.
that out there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Cheddar. It is possible to add weathers to the skybox, even if it's basic ones like rain or cloudy. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's something that is feasible, with something that we can do. Originally, when we created the skybox, it's actually a very extensive Unity tool where you can modify the colors and the assets that are actually moving or orbiting through the sky. If you want more clouds, or you want to add a moon, or maybe objects flying through the moon or stuff like that. The skybox is a really complex system, but it doesn't integrate, it only integrates two things. One is about the cube map, that is the dome that you can see all over the place. And then it's also in charge of the global illumination. Okay, so how everything in the scene is lighted is based on the skybox. So far, particles like rain, it means a system like rain, it means that we need to introduce particles inside the system. I think we are not there yet in terms of performance to include a big system like raining, for example. But we definitely gonna probably add the feature for the SDK developers to swap the skybox system. So you swap between dynamic skybox to whatever custom skybox you want. This is not in development yet, as far as I know, but this is definitely something that we have been talking about. So if you want to go and create a world, for example, to have your own skybox and to create a particle system or fake a particle system for raining, you will be able to do that, to create a proper mode on your scene. But this is kind of things that is definitely something doable, but probably we're not approaching it right now. PT1, could you consider implementing a functionality where users could switch to an avatar-only grid view for a smoother user experience? So it means it's going to be like a grid and your avatar exclusively? I don't really understand the question. The first thing that I pictured in my mind, it was like the loading screen from Assassin's Creed 1, where you have the guy running through a grid that it was an empty space. It's something like that, what you're asking? Could you consider implementing functionality where users could switch to an avatar-only grid view for smoother user experience? Or do you mean your avatar and the rest of the avatars around you? Does anybody have a clue what that means?
Is it just only like 2D view? I don't know.
I don't know what that means. Okay, let's jump to the PT2. A toggle option could be provided to easily revert to the full graphics mode. Okay, so this is part 2 of the first question. Okay. A toggle option could be provided to easily revert to the full graphics mode whenever users wish to take photos or enjoy full experience.
So I think what they're talking about is for you to be able to just toggle, like have a button that turns off the scene or all of the like heavy load, right? So you're only able to see your avatars, and that way it's not so taxing, and maybe it'll be a smoother experience.
Well, it will be way better because you're only going to have avatars around you, but
right.
I think it will be a little bit creepy, right? To just disable the world and see avatar floating because maybe
We're all
some
just floating in the darkness.
yeah, I
love
mean,
that.
you have one avatar on top of Wondermine, and you can see the avatar flying there in a grid. I don't know. We are exploring
avatars only grid view.
avatars.
That just means that you would only be able to see avatars and nothing else. I mean,
yeah, like
still
just
talk.
the ground, just to see the ground only, and just run.
Okay, talking about these ideas that we had and maybe are not going to go anywhere. At some point, we have been discussing about having social features where you have maybe like a party or a group of people. So that group of people is in an empty space where you can only just chat or have voice conversation or, mingle together and do actions there. I mean, like an isolated space for that. But that's something that you can do right now in worlds, right? So you can go for create a world that is empty and have like a social space there. So if you want to jump into a group of people chatting, just go to this specific world and that's it. But yeah, we haven't think about creating that grid view. I think those are all the questions, because I think the second one is the one answer already to share. Okay. Is there any other question that is not here you would like to ask? Now is the time. We are here. Okay.
We're good?
I think we're good.
Cool. Oh, this has been awesome. Thank you, Ashley and Alvaro, for your presentation on performance and new backpack updates. Great work on both of these areas. And like you mentioned, the community has been super stoked on all these new features in the backpack. Really looking forward to the outfits. But you said end of June, beginning of July. That's going to be really cool. And excited to see what that secret emoji update decipher the whole thing. I took a screen capture.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and be like, okay, what is this?
Those are things that may be implemented. Okay, we are putting those bets on top of the table, and we will see. We don't have a real bet yet.
Oh, awesome! Well, excited. I love how you presented that. I'm like, that's clever. And thank you, Aga and Luis, also for being here to helping answer the community's questions. And thanks to all the community members for asking all the great questions. And be sure to join us on our next AMA, and that will take place on June 15th, and that will be with the SDK and editor team. And with that, thanks again, everyone, for being here, and catch you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care, guys.
Ciao.